Wrestling forums. I'm Jackson Bass here with head Piedmont coach Paul Lynch. How you doing today, Coach?
Doing well, yourself?
I'm doing pretty well. So let me start off by asking you, what got you into wrestling?
So when I was younger, it was actually my mother that talked me into it because I was very, very small as a kid. I wasn't really big enough to play basketball or football. I played a lot of soccer growing up, and my mom kept trying to convince me because I was pretty tiny that I should wrestle. And then eventually my sophomore year, I did wrestle, and I wrestled at 112 pounds, and I finished out high school at 135 pounds. So I was still one of the lower weights when I graduated.
That's a tiny senior. I'm not trying to add anybody in the room or anything, but so obviously you wrestled at Oxford. What were some of Coach Clint McCall's major keys to success?
So Coach McCall had been coaching for a long time and had had a pretty good amount of success. He was real big on hard work, showing up early every day, putting in the extra work after, and really getting your fundamentals down. We didn't do anything terribly, not necessarily exciting, but nothing crazy. We drilled the basics over and over and over because his idea was if I can do a single leg and get in a skate anytime I want, nobody's going to beat me. And so that's what we drilled all the time. We're just hard-nosed basics, tons of conditioning.
So obviously you mentioned that your older brother, Adam Lynch, was a state champ over at Oxford. How did having a younger brother, what were you doing to show how to be a model wrestler to your younger brother?
So Adam actually joined the team the same time I did, and we had grown up wrestling and fighting in the basement, and then for Christmas one year, our dad actually got us a little 10x10 mat that we put down into our basement, and we were practicing with each other as often as we could after that. And I hope that I instilled some of the stuff that made him a state champion. He was pretty driven himself anyways. Once he set his mind to something, he pretty much got it done. But I think those first 3 years with us wrestling together, he fell in love with the sport just like I did, because he kind of was wary coming out, didn't know if he really wanted to. And those 3 years of us getting to wrestle together, we absolutely fell in love with the sport. Obviously, I'm still doing it 20 years later, more than 20 years.
I wasn't trying to call you old.
It happens.
So obviously, one thing that's really cool about you is that you're one of the founding members of the University of Alabama wrestling team.
So back in 2002, show my age, Bama started a club team. There was a guy that was a Hoover wrestler named Justin Tucker. And we have something called Get On Board Day at Alabama, where all the clubs set up on the quad. You walk around and sign up for clubs of all types, a judo club, an academic club, a dentistry club. And I was just walking through and I happened to see 2 chairs kind of like this, a card table, a legal pad, a pencil, and a handwritten sign that said Alabama Wrestling ? And I looked at it, signed my name up. I said, is anybody sitting in that seat? He goes, nope. So I sat down with him and took off from there. We raised enough money to buy a mat, buy some old uniforms, and we started competing that year. We finished 5th in the SEC, which at that time the SEC and NCWA, which is what we wrestled in, had 29 teams. So we did pretty decent. We had me and a buddy of mine that I wrestled with at Oxford took 4th. We had another guy take 5th, and that was the lion's share of our points. But it was fun. I did it for 2 years while I was there, and the program actually just started back up this past season with a former St. John Paul II grad, Mike Olua. I might have said that wrong. I'm sorry if I did. But I've checked the NCAA website, and we had a couple of guys that did pretty good. You can track like what tournaments they were in, and it's just neat to see, even at the club level, see Bama have a program, and then Auburn has a program too. So it's nice to see programs for kids to compete in, just in the state. It was a lot of fun. It was real ragtag. We coached ourselves. We drove ourselves everywhere. Back-to-back weekends we drove to the Tallahassee Seminole tournament, and then next weekend to Orlando for the SEC tournaments. It was a bunch of spending time in the old 4Runner driving back and forth across the SEC.
What was your favorite moment in your college wrestling career?
Favorite moment would have been consolation semifinals my first year in the SEC tournament. So University of Central Florida started the program the same year we did and has been a powerhouse ever since. Their school gave them $200,000 to start a program. They gave them 2 mats. They had, I don't know if you've ever heard of this guy, they had a guy named Dan Gable come down and run a week-long clinic for him. He's a pretty famous coach. Most people know him. So by far, it was like 250 points, first place, second place had like 100 points. So, they blew it out of the water. The consolation semis, I wrestled University of Central Florida, had a really kind of one of those chest thumper guys, like flexing it up, and I go, I'm not going to let that guy beat me. And went out and beat him 13-1. And got into the third place match, and ended up finishing 4th in the tournament. That was, like, I saw it the whole tournament. I kind of, was following. I was like, we could end up right here in the concert. Ain't no way I'm going to lose to Central Florida. I'm not going to let it happen. Not to that guy that's boasting so much. And I did. I beat him 13-1. It was pretty good.
I bet you that felt pretty good. So.
I was going to say, I also had a match that tournament where I built up 6.5 minutes of ride time.
I don't know if you watch a lot of like Flow Wrestling Live. But I've been asking, was like, we should have this thing called Insta-Death, or if you acquire more than 4 minutes of riding time.
This is the match.
Yeah, the match should be over.
I would have been all for that because I'm a leg rider. That was the one thing I was good at. If I could get a lead and get on top, I could win most of those matches. I've been all for a 4-minute ride time.
So obviously you were, you coached over Silicaga. You didn't coach wrestling because they don't have a wrestling program. They should, but they didn't. So you coached women's soccer, and you were in the community of coaches that were able to kind of teach you how to coach. Not specifically women's soccer or specifically wrestling, but how to coach. What were some of the things they were able to teach you?
So my time at Silicaga, I was around a lot of great coaches. Most notably, we had Matt Griffith, who was the head football coach, Matt Zedeker, which was the defensive coordinator, and he also coached the guys' soccer team while I was there. And like you said, it wasn't so much teaching me how to coach soccer, which Coach Zedeker did a lot of help in that, but it was more of teaching me and coaching me how to be a coach, how to set high goals, how to stick with them, how to push your team, know when to back off a little bit, know when to push them harder, consistency. Just a lot of stuff that I brought here into the wrestling room here at Piedmont. I learned from those guys, both of who had never even seen a wrestling match, but knew how to coach. Whether, and I bet either of those two could, you give them tennis, golf, badminton, whatever. If you gave them enough time to learn the sport, they'd be a good coach at that too, just because of the way they approach any athletic event.
So what led you to Piedmont?
So I was leaving Silicaga, and I was looking for any wrestling job that was open. And Piedmont had a wrestling job open because Coach Knight had left right before school started the year that I moved here. And I put in for the position, and about twice a week would send the principal and the athletic director an email. Hey, just wondering if y'all got my resume. Hey, I'm still interested for that interview if you've got the time. And they gave me an interview, and I guess it went well because they offered me the job, and now I'm here in Piedmont and just finished my 3rd season here, and I love it here. It's a program that's built around winning. Obviously we have a great football team that's won 4 state championships, and it's been in the semifinals in football every year since, I think it's 2012 or 2011. So there are deep runs in the playoffs every year. We have a baseball team that's been to 2 state championships in the last 5 years, was undefeated last year when they cut the season short. They're in the semifinals this week. We've got a basketball program that just won their 7th straight. Is it regional or area?
This year's
Area title. Track team that's got 2 state championships. It's just in the last 15, 20 years, it's really turned into just not a winning team, but a winning athletic program, and it's nice to be a part of that. And I hope that being the coach of the wrestling team, I can live up to that community of championship that we have here.
So obviously, your first state champ is 2013 in Dylan Melendez, and you're changing the culture here. What are you doing to change the culture here?
Well, I think one of the things that I brought over with was I'm going to run this as hard as I can, and the people that can't need to kind of back off to the side because, and I've told my guys several times, like I would rather have 2 kids that can wrestle each other that give me everything they want than a room full of guys that are going to give me half effort. Because if you want to be a championship program like this program has been before, you know, in the 08 to 12 run, I mean, we won several sectional titles, we won a state championship, had half a dozen individual champions. I mean, it was a nice run, and that came from sometimes just being the meanest kid in the room, being the hardest worker. Because you know, we may not have the most talented guys. I know some of the kids here that have won state championships weren't the most talented, but they were the hardest worker, or they were the meanest kid in the room. And sometimes it's going to take that, and you know, just come in, like I said, from Coach McCall, from Coach Griff, from Coach Zedker, come in ready to work hard every second you're here, give me everything that you got. If that's all you can give, if I've got everything, I'm going to be proud of you regardless of how you finish. And if you have that attitude, you have a room full of kids that you can be proud of, whether they're the worst wrestler in their weight class or the best wrestler in their weight class. But if you continue that, eventually you're going to have a room full of the best wrestlers in their weight class. And it's just, you know, it's something you got to stick with and stay determined to do. We're going to work hard. We're going to do everything we need to. We're going to put in the work outside of here. We're going to keep ourselves healthy. We're going to keep ourselves at the right weight. We're going to, you know, do the conditioning. It's a hard life here in wrestling, but my God, it's fun.
So obviously, I mentioned you guys had your first state champs in 2013. What is having, you know, Dylan being a state champ? What does that mean for your program?
I think it's going to mean a lot for our program. Like I said, it had been a long time, and not only had it been a long time since we had a state champ, it was really a long time since we had somebody get close. I mean, I don't think we had anybody place above 4th during that run. I know my first year we had 2 kids place 4th, and that was the best that we had in several years. But I know with Dylan winning the state championship, it's in fact, I just looked at my sign-up sheet. We've got almost 30 kids signed up, which if all of them come out, that would double our team size from last year. And I know if we can continue the success like that, maybe get another one this year. And I think we've got some kids in the room that have a shot at being state champs this year. But I know it's going to grow it in the sport. I know it's going to grow it here at Piedmont. And I'm just really proud of Dylan. He is the epitome of everything that I've been talking about. We're going to work when we get in here. We're going to work when we're out of here. We're going to take care of our body. We're going to maintain a healthy eating habit. We're going to maintain our health. I mean, you know, the flu can stop you in wrestling because it's that season of the year. But that's the kind of kid that did every single thing he was supposed to, and that's why he dominated the state tournament.
You know, closer to December, I-20 kind of shut down with wrestling. How did that affect you guys mentally?
So we actually got lucky. We did not get shut down. I know here in Calhoun County, where we actually have a pretty big hotbed of smaller wrestling schools and some bigger ones like Oxford. Right before the Christmas break, or about halfway through December, they called a 3-week halt. And it was funny because I was actually had somebody back out on me for a match. I was trying to fill it. And I was calling around and we get somebody on the phone. It's like, yeah, I'll come. Wait, no, my principal's telling me you can't. We're shut down. And I called the next one. It's the same thing. It turned out Calhoun County canceled all athletics. But since we're not in the county system, we're actually Piedmont City. We got to make the choice ourselves, and we decided that since, you know, at the time it was, I think I had 2 matches that week, and then I was going up to Pt.1 in Huntsville to wrestle a quad up there, and they let us keep going, and I think we went, did we go 8-0 that week? I mean, for us, it might have been the difference in our season, because that was a week where we really started to catch fire, and went up, had a lot of big wins, had some guys win some matches they probably shouldn't, and that really kind of lit a fire under some of them. And like I said, we finished the season 30-9, which is not bad. So that week was a quarter of our wins on the whole season, and it was really big to springboard us into start back in January.
Well, it's awesome to hear. And so, as many of you will know, I have a segment on my show called The Weigh-In. where I have coaches and athletes weighing on hot button topics that are going on in Alabama wrestling.
Right.
So I'm going to ask you the first one. Do you think wrestling in Alabama should be one division or multiple divisions?
I definitely think it should be multiple divisions. There are some states, obviously, that have it as one division: California, Indiana, New Jersey, and there's a lot of competition there. I think here in Alabama, there's too much parity between the top, bigger schools and the lower schools. You know, I think schools like the Piedmonts of the world would get pretty overshadowed by the Thompson, the Vestavias, and the Hoovers and such. I like splitting up the divisions. I love that we're 1 through 4A now. That's what it was when I was growing up. I would love to see enough growth to maybe split it again if we could get enough smaller schools to go 1 through 3A. I know that's probably 20 years off, but that is a goal. But there's between 2A and 3A schools, there's 83 schools in the state that don't have wrestling programs, several of which I think could support them. Anybody that doesn't think they can be a small school and support wrestling, look at Rammer High School. Rammer has 260 high school kids. Last year against the 5A teams, they finished, a 1.5 out of second place behind Arab and Jasper. And really had a great roster, and then they graduated everybody off that roster. What do? They come back this year, they have another top 10 finish. They finished half a point behind us. And, if a school as small as Ramburn or a school as small as the Alabama School for Deaf and Blind, you know what the enrollment of Alabama Deaf and Blind is? It's under 50 kids. The last time I checked, the enrollment said 38 students. 38 in the school. And that's just for the school of the blind, not the blind and the deaf. But the school for the blind had 38 kids. I think it's a little more now. Guys, they have a state championship in wrestling. They won it in 72 when it was 1 through 4A. It was 1 through 3A then. And, there are small schools that are having some success. You see Weaver. Weaver's won 9 state championships, finished second this year. They're a 3A program. I think Welburn is a 3A program, won 4. We've won 1. I mean, there's the ability to have success as a 3A program, and now you've got Ramburn showing that you can have success as a 2A program. And, it's just something, if you'll put the time and effort into it and give it a little chance to grow, I think we can see a lot of growth in those 2 and 3A schools.
And wrestling's one of the cheapest sports to do. You just need a mat.
It's expensive to start, but once you got that mat, it's cheap to keep going.
I mean, mats are not. I'm not gonna say mats are cheap because, I don't know. You can get some really like the lower price mats. They actually like $250, maybe, but that's still a lot for something like the school that up in the one. They've got the stuff. So obviously it's not too bad. So, Coach, before I let you go, is there anything you want to say about yours?
Just want to say thank you to Alabama Wrestling Forums, and thanks for having me. Thanks for having Dylan on, and it's been a blast. I appreciate it.
I definitely appreciate you guys, and thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and stay cool out there wrestling.